Hello, welcome, and we have a new set of travel tales for you today, and it's episode 1 of Cape Town in Spring. So are you sitting comfortably? Then we'll begin. As we had never flown out of Europe before, the long-haul flight to Cape Town was a shock to the system. The short hop from Manchester to Amsterdam was a doddle, but 11 hours in a packed Boeing seemed to last forever. KLM looked after us though, giving each of us a small pillow, a blanket and headphones to watch our own little screen, which was in the back of the seat in front of us. All well and good, until the person in front reclined their seat, bringing on claustrophobia and nil screen visibility. But we were regularly brought boxes of food which were not at all inedible. One option on the screen was the flight tracking system. It was fascinating to watch our plane progress across the map of Europe and Africa. Near the Sahara, I looked out of the window. The clouds below looked as if they were made of a deep red-brown sand. When they cleared, the desert had lines across it, as if ants had made tiny winding paths in the red dust. The sun set with a crimson and gold line across the horizon, and when darkness fell, there were occasional lights down below, glowing like fires burning on the African continent, that sent a thrill of excitement through me. We touched down in Cape Town late at night. Even the moon and the stars looked different here. The crescent was visible at the bottom of the moon, and the familiar plough was nowhere to be seen. We crashed out in our friend's apartment in Newlands, amid a trio of large wooden hippos, a 4-foot carved giraffe named Gerald, and a beautiful elephant wall hanging. A postmodern sculpture of a guinea fowl regarded us from the bookcase, as did 4 striking African heads carved in stone. South Africa and its animals had captivated our friend Kath, who's also from Burnley like we are in England. And the whole apartment is decorated in an African red earth theme. We toasted our arrival with a glass of local wine and slid under an animal-patterned duvet. I pulled a picture of an antelope over my head and knew no more until morning. It came light about 6 a.m. I threw open the curtains and staggered back. Table Mountain filled the panoramic window. A bird with a call unfamiliar to my ear shrieked nearby. Cape Town University, with its red roofs, nestled in the wooded lower reaches of the mountain's foot. The sky was clear blue. It was a spring day. This was the day to go to the top of the mountain, for if the tablecloth of mist descends, a person can get lost up there very easily and even walk off the edge of the mountain. The Lonely Planet Guide ominously says, "There have been deaths." It's a plateau on top of a mountain about 3 kilometres wide, and it's 1,086 metres above sea level, and it makes a dramatic backdrop to the city. We called at the Pick and Pay supermarket first. I like to potter around a supermarket in a different country. There are lots of clues in there about their way of life and the cultural heritage too. Here there is a very large section of pet food and toys for big dogs, guard dogs. Indeed, everywhere you look in this city, there seems to be a high level of security. This could have something to do with the extremes of wealth and poverty living side by side, and perhaps the legacy of the apartheid regime. The guidebook says, paranoia is not necessary, common sense is. Also in the Pick and Pay is a large section relating to the upkeep of private swimming pools. This is unlikely to have the same appeal in our hometown in Lancashire, England. Enormous bulging receptacles of brightly coloured fresh fruit juices abound, and a dizzying array of exotic fruits and vegetables. We got a giant pack of passion berries, like outsized strawberries, and a gigantic vat of yoghurt. A halal section denotes the presence of a Muslim community, and there are obvious indications of a strong Dutch and Germanic culture. Many fat sausages and wursts in plastic skins are piled high. Outside, I feel the warmth of the South African sun penetrating my skin, and I see a strange bird on a roof. All in all, I know we are somewhere very different to usual. We nip back to the apartment to drop off the groceries. Paul presses the remote from our white-hired Toyota, and the big green iron gate rolls smoothly back for us as we enter the gated community that Kath has her apartment in. We struggle to the lift with the shopping. Under her arm, Kath is carrying 2 ostrich feather long-handled dusters resembling Ken Dodd tickling sticks. As she bends down to sort out her shopping in the tight space of the lift, she is completely unaware that she is inadvertently dusting Paul's genitalia. He is far too polite to mention it, of course. We drove to the cable car station to go to the top of Table Mountain. Cars, nearly all of them white for some reason, line the narrow road. A man with an enormous battered traffic cone on his head was directing traffic. It is noticeable to me that black people appear to have the lion's share of menial jobs here. The government proclaims it is making efforts to extend equal employment opportunities after decades of institutional inequality. It is great to be in South Africa after all the years I spent working in the anti-apartheid movement in the UK. Through the bushes at the side of the road is a couple of miles sheer drop down the mountainside to the city of Cape Town, its suburbs, and on to the distant coastline and the blue sea, with ocean liners looking like tiny narrowboats. Off to the north are more mountains fading to a hazy outline as the landscape disappears in the direction of Namibia. My eyes adjust radically from this long distance to the bush straight in front of me to see a brown and orange bird. Next to it is a flying beetle the size and colour of a fresh date, with whirring wings glistening in the sunlight. A tiny shiny beetle, the colour of a pearl, rests on the lens of my glasses for a couple of seconds. We piled onto the cable car and up we went, standing on a revolving platform which facilitated a panoramic view of the spectacular mountainside and beyond. We ascended so rapidly that my eardrums cracked, and for the first time since landing in the plane, I could hear clearly again. At the summit was a view of the tops of a mountain range with plunging ravines and valleys going on for miles. The other way was a steep cutaway far below to the sea. It was still a clear blue sky and visibility was good. The first thing we saw as we peered over the edge from the walled viewpoint was a whale and her calf. Far below, rendered the size of goldfish by distance, but nevertheless breathtaking. White waves were breaking over their bodies as they broke the surface and went down again. As I watched through binoculars, I felt a surge of connectedness with the planet and living things, a knowledge of how beauty and pain sit side by side at all times, and how all things have a beginning and an end. I could have cried like a baby watching those whales. I was so happy on top of that mountain. We set off walking on the mountain top, along the myriad paths among the flowers, grasses and shrubs, many of which are to be found nowhere else on earth. The weirdly shaped rock formations resembled many things to my eye. An old man with sunken gums, the skull of a bird, and far off on the other side of a gorge, a huge rock like the head of a dragon. In its vast open mouth, two souls lay dreaming in the shade, their booted feet dangling over its lower jaw above a deep chasm. The clicking of cameras close by alerted us to the presence of a couple of furry brown dassies sunning themselves. They're for all the world like hamsters on steroids. They lay heedlessly on rocks where one false move would send them in a free fall hundreds of feet to sea level. They're rather endearing creatures. The typically South African pincushion proteas were blooming in yellow and orange profusion, and metal plaques informed us that many creatures lived here that we may not see, such as snakes and lizards. Having read this, I skipped over the moon-like surface with a new caution. We did spot a couple of gunmetal grey lizards, motionless in the sun. Reluctantly, we turned back for the cable car, but you could really make a day of it up here with walking boots and a picnic. Some hardy people had actually walked all the way up the mountain, but we will say no more about that, as they were about 40 years younger than us. Perhaps they had climbed along the great spine of the Lion Rock that stretches alongside Cape Town to the sea. Around the cafe, near the cable station, were many South African starlings, glossy black birds with orange wings. It says in the bird book that they have adapted to suburbia. This is an understatement, as they specialised in smash and grab raids from people's plates, carrying off chips, which they then squabbled over on the roof. I would not care to speculate on their cholesterol levels. In a nearby bush, I spied a small dark bird with a long curved beak and a shimmering blue throat. It was an African sunbird. We crowded into the cable car and descended at breakneck speed. The floor, however, revolved quite slowly. and we would pass open parts of the car with a welcome mountain wind blowing our hair. I felt the pressure once again on my catarrh-ridden ears, and by the time we got down the mountain I was as deaf as a post again. Damn. As we returned to the car, I contrasted my two companions. Kath tends to be a task-focused and highly organised person, striding purposefully off at a determined pace. Paul tends to do everything with the slow and relaxed demeanour of Dean Martin. He doesn't worry about the past because it's gone. He doesn't worry about the future because it's not here yet. And I tend to be catching up or hanging back variously between these two. Both of them I love. They both have a heart of gold. We had a gorgeous drive through the resort of Camps Bay. Many people were relaxing on the beach or in the trendy seafront bars. However, Kath told us tales of being sandblasted here by the sand on your legs in high winds, and of pain searing through the legs due to sub-zero water temperatures. We stopped off at Hout Bay and had a walk past the fishing boats. We spotted a huge southern right whale slowly turning about in the small bay. For its size, it was surprisingly close to the land. Here we were accosted by two young teenage sisters we nicknamed the Barbies from hell. They had toothpaste advert sickly smiles and were dressed identically, entirely in pink, including pink cowboy boots and pink party Stetsons with a sort of frill round the edges. Apparently they devote every waking minute they are not at school to selling ghastly homemade, soap encrusted with naff plastic dolphins and flowers for charity. Well, you can't knock them for that, that's good on them. However, they spoke in a sing-song unison at all times, with much breathy and synchronised squeaking, which began to border on the sinister. We bought soap from them more out of fear than anything else. We sat overlooking the bay in Mariner's Wharf restaurant. Paul was brought a gigantic shell balanced on a black rubber ring. It was filled with a massive amount of Greek salad. Kath had the local fish pâté, and I had a deep-sea game fish on a bed of crushed potatoes in a buttery sauce. Today's game fish catch was swordfish, moist and delicious, simply grilled. No such meal is complete without some castle lager, which we can smell brewing in Cape Town. A day to remember as we drove back and saw all the tall white arum lilies growing wild in roadside glades. These are often harvested first thing in the early morning and sold by the armful at the robots being the traffic lights. So that's the end of episode 1 of our adventures in Cape Town. I hope you enjoyed it, and see you again at the same time, 4 o'clock in the afternoon UK time tomorrow for episode 2. Take care of yourself. Bye.